Yes, indeed. We've got Simbi Wabote, who is an engineer. He's also the Executive Secretary of Nigeria Content Development and Monitoring Board. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
Well, about this Executive Order 5, are you overtly optimistic that this is a good thing, or you're just cautiously optimistic?
Thanks for having me on the program. First, let me say Happy Valentine's Day to all of you.
Thank you.
I can see the touch of red everywhere.
Particularly right there.
Yes.
And here too. On you.
And on me, yeah. So that's why I wish to put that on record, that I wished you the best this day. Back to your question, I think I am overtly optimistic that it is the right step in the right direction. And I believe that this is one of, in addition to other executive orders that have been issued in the past couple of months, this one is very dear to my heart. Why do I say so? We have been implementing the expatriate quota administration in the oil and gas sector for the past 7 years because it's enshrined in the Local Content Act that for any expat that wants to come to work in the oil and gas sector, you must first seek the approval of the board before you apply to Ministry of Interior for you to get the visa to come into the country. When we started in 2010, when the act was enacted, the number of expats we had in the oil and gas sector was mind-boggling. But with the focused implementation of what the provision is in the Act, we've been able to reduce that by as much as 60%. Before the enactment of the Act in the oil and gas sector, there were no Nigerians even managing any of the international companies today, because the provision of the Act says the management and the leadership of any oil and gas company will have 5% provision for investors' interest. And we have followed that to the latter. Today you have companies like Shell that have managing directors that are Nigerians. You also have the directors of many of those companies that are Nigerians. In the past, when I joined the oil and gas sector 25 years ago, it was all expats. But today, from 2010, when we implemented that act, you have Nigerians there. And that goes beyond the leadership to other stratas.
Then the question of capacity comes in, because when this kind of executive orders are signed or such laws are put in place, one begins to wonder about the capacity of those on the ground to handle the situation. Vis-a-vis, I mean, like the other guest was talking about having to bring in people from across the border to do things like, for want of a better example, tiling.
No, I think that's a very good point. But you see, the main objective of any businessman, be it in construction, be it in ICT, be it in the oil and gas sector, is to maximize their profit. And for them, they look for cheap labor anywhere. And once you don't have any restriction for the influx of cheap labor, they will go for it. But once you have things like the executive order, you have the Local Content Act on this particular topic, those investors, those businessmen are forced to join you in building capacity in country.
So this order will boost this act?
Absolutely. Let me give you a scenario. We have been implementing this for the past 7 years, but like any other law, we see that it is being circumvented, particularly by the contractors who execute jobs in the oil and gas sector. They apply for expatriate quota for construction, and they get those quotas. But those expats then infiltrate the oil and gas sector. And it's a difficult process to monitor because they have gotten the visa that is required. When they take them to site, you don't even know.
So what guarantee is there that this Order 5 will not be subvented, for instance?
Like every law or every policy that you churn out, you must ensure that as you continue to implement, you continue to fine-tune to ensure that you block loopholes. People are very ingenious. No matter what you do, they will look for avenues to want to circumvent them. And I think, like I said when I started, this is helping the Local Content Act itself. If you like, it's one of those processes you are trying to refine to block those loopholes. So, indeed, people will think to say, okay, the order is out, depending on how government enforces the implementation. People will then say, what else can we do? They'll look for other loopholes. By the time you review, you take an after-action review of the order that you have given, you will discover that there are loopholes. You do things again to close those loopholes.